So we're going to go right into talking about the sunnah of eating. And of course, the first thing that we have to mention right off when we're talking about the sunnah of eating is the concept of eating less. That's obvious. But let's go over some ayat in the Quran. First of all, in Surah Taha, that's ayah number 81, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Eat of the good things we have provided for your sustenance, but commit no excess therein, lest my condemnation fall upon you, for he upon whom my condemnation falls has indeed thrown himself into utter ruin." Elsewhere in Surah Al-Araf, ayah 31, "O children of Adam, wear your beautiful apparel at every time and place of prayer. Eat and drink, but waste not by excess, for Allah loves not the wasters." The Prophet ﷺ said that nothing is worse than a person who fills his stomach. It should be enough for the son of Adam to have a few bites to satisfy his hunger. So this hadith I want us to pay special close attention to, because many times when people quote this hadith, they only quote half the hadith, where they say, the Prophet ﷺ said to have a certain amount of your stomach left for food, air, and water. But he doesn't start out the hadith that way. You see, first he's giving you a suggestion on how much you should eat. And the suggestion is just a few bites to satisfy your hunger. But the Prophet ﷺ is saying that if you need to eat more than that, if you need to go beyond my suggestion, here is my upper limit. Meaning, if he wishes more, it should be 1/3 of his stomach for food, 1/3 of his stomach for liquids, and then 1/3 for like air, breath. So just 1/3 of your stomach should be filled with food. Of course, people go and fill their stomach completely with food, and then even eat beyond that. So, but it should be just basically enough to keep your back straight, meaning just a few bites to satisfy your hunger. If you need to do more than that, it should not be more than approximately 1/3 of your stomach. What does that mean for us practically? Because obviously you cannot really measure 1/3 of your stomach. What that means is that by all means that you should stop eating before you feel full. If you're eating till the point that your stomach is full, you've gone way beyond way beyond what the Prophet ﷺ is advising us. That's the point of this. So, and if you try to practice this in everyday life, it's very practical, because it takes a while for the stomach to relay to the satiety centers in the brain, which regulate your appetite. So there are impulses from the stomach that go to the brain that communicate and to tell your body, say, I've had enough. But it takes a while for that to happen. It doesn't happen right away. Okay, so the stomach stretches, right? And it takes a while for those impulses to get to the brain. Why is that important? Meaning that if you stop before you feel full and you wait a little bit, you will find that your appetite goes away. So a lot of people think I have to eat till my stomach is full to be satisfied, but that's not the case. If you wait a little bit, you'll find that your appetite goes away. The Prophet ﷺ also says one person's food is enough for two people's food is enough for four, and four people's food is enough for eight. So again, basically telling us that most people eat beyond their necessary requirements. And the Prophet ﷺ said he is not a believer who eats to his fill, but his neighbor goes without food. So enjoining upon us not only to eat less, but to take care of our neighbors, especially in this day and age, something that is becoming lost. Making sure that not only we're taking care of ourselves, but how are the people around us doing? So, the Prophet ﷺ had this quality of being excessively concerned for people. That's the word, excessively, always concerned about not just himself or the people around him, everyone. It's something that is, really a beautiful hadith. So in relation to the Prophet ﷺ, his household, so it is related in two separate reports, one by the companion Abu Huraira and one by the Prophet's wife, Aisha radiallahu anha, that after settling in Medina, the Prophet ﷺ and the people of his household never got to eat full for more than 3 days continuously throughout his life. In other words, there were never 3 days in a row when the Prophet ﷺ and his family were fully fed every day. They may have eaten fully one day, maybe even the following day, but after that it would be back to the normal sparse eating. So this idea that we always have to eat to our fill, 3 square meals a day, plus 2 snacks, this is not Islam. This is not the practice of the Prophet ﷺ. And this isn't just unique to the Prophet ﷺ and unique to our teachings of Islam. This goes way back to all the prophets, And we can see this really explained very clearly in the life of Isa ﷺ. If you analyze many of the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and you look at some hadith which we know are authentic from Isa ﷺ, or what's at least somewhat reliable, you will see there's a lot of overlap. And one of the things you will see is that Prophet Isa ﷺ also taught the same thing about not eating all the time, and not eating till your stomach is full. Even in Christianity today, they have like 7 deadly sins, and one of the 7 deadly sins is gluttony. Okay, and one thing I often talk about when I mention this topic of eating less is that there definitely is a correlation. There's definitely a connection with eating till our stomachs are completely full and our spirituality. If you have a dinner and you eat completely till you're full, or even lunch, you will find that you are very sluggish. You may even have difficulty praying with full concentration or with full energy, because eating till your stomach is full is, as we're going to get into, has many bad effects. But one of the bad effects is you just start to feel very sluggish. It does the opposite. Your food is supposed to nourish you and you're supposed to have energy, and you eat till you're full, your stomach is sticking out, or your tummy sticking out, that you start to feel very sluggish because it's overload. So everything has to be in perfect balance, and this definitely relates to spirituality. How? Because anything that you do in the dunya, by and large, anything you do in the dunya which is to excess, is taking you away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're indulging in the dunya. The dunya is there for us to get to Jannah, as a vehicle for us to get to Jannah, for us to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if you are indulging in the dunya in any actions, which even maybe they may be halal, eating is halal, but if you do it to excess, then you're indulging in the dunya, it's taking you away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just like other types of things that even though they may be halal, but if you do it to excess, it's going to take you away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So keep that in mind too, because there's definitely a connection, and I'm sure all of us, we can vouch for that. Like in Ramadan, when you're fasting and you eat less, don't you feel more calm and you feel closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? There's definitely a correlation. So the Prophet ﷺ said, a true believer eats in one stomach, a disbeliever eats as if he has 7 stomachs. So this hadith is important because here the Prophet ﷺ is contrasting the traits of a believer versus someone who's a disbeliever. And so that's very strong words. It's the Prophet ﷺ saying you're essentially a disbeliever if you eat way, way too much, beyond excess. So he's cautioning people. Aisha radiallahu anha related that during the life of the Prophet ﷺ, we used to subsist on dates and water. So very simple diet of the Prophet ﷺ, not indulging in all types of foods all the time, but mostly eating dates and water, or drinking water. There's an ancient Egyptian pyramid inscription that says humans live on 1/4 of what they eat, and the other 3/4 lives their doctor. So this, idea even in ancient civilizations that how much you're eating, what you're eating, also has a direct correlation to your health. And then there's a famous Hungarian-born biochemist who won the Nobel Prize in Physiology. He said very few people know what real health is because most people are occupied with killing themselves slowly. And that's what, when we are eating to excess, that's what we're essentially doing. We're killing our bodies slowly. So in relation to eating less, and of course the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, we know that he fasted, not just during Ramadan, the middle 3 days of the month, Mondays and Thursdays, also other times of the year as well. So we have to talk a little bit, at least, about the benefits of fasting. And I have listed some of these, and this I'm not saying is a complete list, but these are some of the big ones. So if we go back to last week when we talked, for those of you who were here, and we talked about how diabetes affects the body and what's going on physiologically, we know that when we eat, what happens to the amount of sugar in our blood? It goes up. Okay, and if we don't eat and we're in a fasting state, the opposite, then we expect the blood sugar to go down. And we know that diabetes occurs because over time the blood sugar level is too high. Okay, so one way to counteract that is to eat less, and one great way of doing that is to fast. So fasting, one of the immediate effects is that it lowers your blood glucose. It lowers your blood sugar, so that can be very beneficial for most people. It can also lead to weight loss. That's important because now we know a lot about the fat which builds up right here around the tummy. Okay, the fat which builds up, because there's fat in other parts of your body too, but the fat which builds up here on your abdomen, on your tummy area, this is really dangerous fat. Now they know that the fat cells here, they release certain chemicals called cytokines, and this can lead to inflammation in the body. Inflammation overall in the body is not a good thing, and in this case can lead to cancer. So being obese, and the more you weigh, and overweight people and obese people, they are more likely to get cancer. So one good way of counteracting weight gain is to fast. That helps to control your weight as well. Another benefit of fasting is to lower the cholesterol level. When you're fasting, your body can use energy from other places, and it can use the cholesterol which already exists in your body for energy needs. So one benefit of fasting is it lowers your cholesterol level, it lowers your blood pressure. It has a psychological and spiritual effect, meaning that people tend to be more calm overall, when they're fasting. Fasting is known to have a detox effect, so it helps to eliminate certain toxins in your body. And this is well established. Fasting can help improve the quality of sleep. It has been used traditionally to treat certain diseases. It has been, in certain studies, fasting, people who regularly fast, it's been shown that they live a longer lifespan. Okay, and mental acuity increases. Some studies here, I put a question mark, it's questionable, but some studies have shown some mild benefit for aiding in respiration. The digestive system is rejuvenated. So your stomach and intestines, when you're fasting, they're not in use, right? Because there's less food, there's no food. So they have a chance to rest and rejuvenate. That's really important, because if you're eating all the time, then your stomach and your intestines don't have a chance to rest. So it's really good to give it a break, and so it can rejuvenate. And one thing we notice in Ramadan, after you're fasting for about a week, because the first few days can be difficult, right? Because now your body's getting used to a different way of eating. So the first few days can be difficult. Then what happens after 7 days or 2 weeks? Your body gets used to it. Why? Because your stomach, physically, it contracts. Okay? To the point that after Ramadan is over, it's time for Eid. Well, now we can eat. You don't feel like eating all the time. Your whole month you've been fasting, and now you can eat, but you don't really feel like eating a lot. It takes now another couple of weeks for you to get back into, okay, now you're eating again too much. But the thing is that it takes a while. Why? Because the stomach actually contracts, and that leads to decreased appetite. It leads to less eating, which is, all of that is healthy. You don't really need a lot of food to keep going. That's the way. You don't need a lot. You just need a little bit. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said you just need some bites to satisfy your hunger. So the Prophet ﷺ said, he gave a reason why you should fast. So he said, fast the month of Ramadan, so to heal your bodies from diseases. Subhanallah. So, and this is very true, because now we know that fasting helps to prevent a variety of diseases, including heart disease and blood vessel disease, cardiovascular disease, arthritis, asthma, diabetes. That should be you should be aware of that already. If you were here last week, you know that people who overeat, that leads to diabetes. So if you're doing the opposite of that and you're fasting, then that will help to prevent diabetes. It will help to keep your blood sugar level low. Fasting helps, of course, to prevent obesity, which not only leads to cancer, but they know it can lead to other types of diseases as well. And it can, like arthritis, it can lead to wearing your joints down, and a bunch of other diseases as well. So the fact that fasting helps to control your weight helps to prevent many diseases. It can help prevent ulcers, digestive disorders, skin problems, nervous system dysfunction, and even certain types of mental illness, the way fasting affects the brain. So now we're going to get into some of the foods that the Prophet ﷺ ate. This is a pretty good list. I'm not going to say that this is a complete, comprehensive list, but you will find frequently in the lists that are out there of the foods that the Prophet ﷺ ate, these are the ones that are mentioned. So honey, dates, sweets. And when we're talking about sweets in this case, that's a generic term. There's certain hadith talking about sweets. We don't necessarily know exactly what type of sweets those hadith are mentioning, but we just say generically sweets. Butter, and also when we're talking about butter, don't think about the butter you're getting in the grocery store. It was a different butter back then. But butter, cream, same thing with cream, vinegar, milk, lemon and citrus fruits, olive oil, mushrooms, grapes, walnuts, figs, barley, melon, pomegranate, pumpkin, and I should put there pumpkin/squash, and we'll get into that later. Cucumber, lamb and sheep, chicken and hunted birds, water and salt. Okay, so these are certain food and food items that are mentioned in hadith. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu said the food Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam liked best was tharid, bread which is crumbled and mixed with soup, which may have pieces of meat in it, made from bread, made from hais, a mixture of dates and clarified butter. So this mixture of dates and butter is something that also the Prophet ﷺ was fond of. The Prophet ﷺ said, when one of you eats food, he should say, "Oh Allah, bless us in it and give us good nourishment from it." Imam al-Khushairi says in his book, Ar-Risala, that the Sahaba radiallahu anhum were more concerned about food than Qiyam al-Layl. So we know the benefits of tahajjud, we know the benefits of Qiyam al-Layl, but the Sahaba radiallahu anhum were even more concerned with food, with what they were putting in their bodies. I like to mention that because this is an often overlooked thing in our deen these days. Like, people don't put as much importance on what they're putting into their bodies in terms of their spirituality. But the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, they were keenly aware that there's a connection and we need to be concerned about what we're putting into our body. Another thing I like to mention here is that every time halal is used with food in the Quran, the word tayyib, pure, is also mentioned in the Quran. So, in other words, just because something is halal, it doesn't automatically mean it's tayyib. Because otherwise, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wouldn't have bothered to use an extra word in there, And that's something we need to think about. Like, if you're going to the butcher shop and something is halal, we want to look into how are the animals raised before they're getting slaughtered. And we're going to talk about that when we get to meat. But that's an excellent example, is meat. Just because something is halal doesn't mean automatically that it's tayyib or pure. Okay, I'm not going to go through all of these things, but these are some vitamins, like vitamins A, B, C, D, E, and K. These are essential vitamins that our bodies need. Of course, many of the foods that the Prophet ﷺ ate, they contain these essential vitamins. So I just kind of listed some of the vitamins here and some of their functions here, and some minerals as well. Again, I'm not going to go through all of the list. But the point is that things like fiber, zinc, calcium, iron, potassium, phosphorus, magnesium, you will find these in the foods that the Prophet ﷺ ate. Okay? And again, selenium and silica and lutein, all of these things you can find in the foods that the Prophet ﷺ ate. One thing I'm going to mention is polyphenols and things like antioxidants, because the polyphenol is an antioxidant. An antioxidant is something which helps to prevent cancer. And this is found in a lot of the foods that the Prophet ﷺ ate. So, and I'm going to talk about that, I think, in the next slide. Yeah. So you probably heard of this term a lot, antioxidant. Maybe you heard about it. This is basically what an antioxidant is. So if you look at an atom, and you see here the nucleus, and of course the nucleus is orbited by electrons, which have a negative charge. Okay. If the outer shell of the electron orbit, if it's missing an electron, as you see here, these electrons here are paired, these electrons are paired, that one is paired. Here an electron is missing, okay? And when an electron is missing in the electron shell here, which is surrounding the nucleus, this substance is now called a free radical. So it's missing an electron. That's what a free radical is. It's an atom that's missing an electron. Now, how do free radicals form in the body? They sometimes form naturally, sometimes they form in response to disease. But free radicals cause damage to our bodies. And free radicals cause damage to our bodies in such a way that that damage can lead to cancer. So what an antioxidant does is it takes an electron, is an atom, it takes an electron from the electron shell here and donates it to the free radical. So now this electron will be paired and the free radical is now neutralized. So it cannot do the damage which will cause cancer. So an antioxidant helps to prevent cancer. Many of the foods that the Prophet ﷺ ate, they contain antioxidants, which means that the foods that the Prophet ﷺ ate helps prevent cancer. That's the point here. And you're going to see that. And by the way, you're going to start to see a pattern very quickly emerge. So let's start with honey. Honey is probably something that we usually associate when we're talking about the foods that the Prophet ﷺ ate. So in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Surah Nahl, ayah 69, and eat of all manner of fruit and follow humbly the path ordained by thee, by your sustainer, and lo, there comes from their bellies a drink of many colors, in which there is a healing for mankind. In all this, behold, there is a message for people who think. So the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever eats honey 3 times a month, they will not meet with any great disaster. You have 2 medicines, honey and the Quran. And the Prophet ﷺ, Aisha radiallahu anha said that the Prophet ﷺ loved to eat honey. So this is well known that this is something that the Prophet ﷺ used to enjoy eating and encourage people to eat. Okay, he would, ﷺ would mix honey with cold water and drink it on an empty stomach very often. And the Prophet ﷺ also would mix honey with milk. So these are different ways you can take in honey. One of the things, it has many essential vitamins and minerals, but it also is well known to have antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory properties, meaning it helps to fight off infection and it helps to reduce inflammation in the body. Remember, we said anything which inflames the body in general is not good. So honey has an anti-inflammatory effect, so that's good. Honey is a source of antioxidants. That means honey can help prevent cancer. Okay? And see, that's the Prophet ﷺ said, you have 2 medicines, honey and the Quran. And he said, whoever eats honey 3 times a month will not meet with any great disaster. I kind of connect that back to, the source of antioxidants preventing cancer. Okay. Honey can also result in it has a lower caloric level than other types of food, like comparatively. It helps promote cardiovascular health. That means it helps prevent heart attack, helps prevent stroke, okay? Helps control cholesterol. And honey has sugar. Honey has sugar, it has glucose, it has sugar, but it has an easily digested sugar and it is absorbed quickly, but it doesn't lead to a spike or such a great increase in blood glucose levels. Now remember, we're talking about people who are not diabetic. We're talking about people who are not diabetic. So for people who are not diabetic, eating honey will not increase your glucose level too high. Even though it has sugar, but it's a different type of sugar, so it doesn't result in a spike in your blood sugar levels. You understand? Now, if somebody's diabetic, they need to be careful, because then their body's out of whack, okay, as we talked about last week. So that's different. Okay, now let's talk about dates. So in the Quran, in Surah Maryam, this is ayah 23, 20 to 25, and when the throes of childbirth drove her to the trunk of a palm tree, she exclaimed, "Oh, would that I had died here and become a thing forgotten, utterly forgotten." Thereupon a voice called out to her from beneath that palm tree, "Grieve not, your sustainer has provided a rivulet running beneath you, and shake the trunk of the palm tree towards you, it will drop fresh ripe dates upon you." Here, Maryam alayhi salam is, in agony and in pain. And actually, this is the only time I'm aware of in the Quran where someone's wishing for death. You see here, Maryam alayhi salam. Not only is she wishing for death, but the word in Arabic, she's saying a thing which is forgotten. She just wants to be forgotten. Why is that? Because she's, a virgin, no man has touched her, and, the angels came to tell her, you're going to have a baby. And of course, the people around her, they immediately start gossiping. When she tummy starts to grow, they start gossiping and saying all these things about her, and it's very traumatic for her. And on top of this, then, when she's about to give birth, she's in a lot of pain. So all this is going in her mind. She's going through a lot of pain, mentally and physically. And in this weak state, she's crying out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help. And Allah says that in relief, to provide you relief, shake the palm tree and it will drop dates upon you. So that the value of the date here is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen this there's a lot of wisdom behind it. So the palm tree is mentioned 20 times in the Quran. The Prophet ﷺ said, a house without dates has no food. And Aisha radiallahu anha said that the Prophet ﷺ had named dates and milk amongst the two best of all foods. Okay? If you look at dates, it's a very complete food. And you know that the Prophet ﷺ used to break his fast with dates, like an odd number of dates. If you look at what is contained in dates, a lot of good things. Okay, so first of all, sugar, so it helps to, after a day of fasting, it helps to rejuvenate and increase your blood sugar levels right away. Okay, so it has sugar, protein, fat, fiber, calcium, iron, potassium, and many other essential vitamins and minerals. So it's a very wholesome, complete food. That's why the Prophet ﷺ, that hadith, we used to subsist on dates and water, because you can really survive on dates for a long time and be okay, because it has a lot of essential vitamins and minerals. It helps in the birth process, in the birthing process, and so it is of course very valuable for Maryam to have dates at that womb. And it helps in producing breast milk. It helps the digestive organs function better, and it helps to control obesity. Why? Because dates are not what we consider something high in calories. So you can eat a good amount of dates and not gain a lot of weight. Plus, it can be very filling. So you don't need to eat a lot of it. You can eat 7 dates as a meal. It'll be good to go. Milk. So in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Surah Nahl, this is ayah 66, and verily in cattle too you will find a lesson for you from what is within their bodies between excretions and blood. We produce for your drink milk which is pure and pleasant to those who drink it. So the Prophet ﷺ said, let whoever is given milk by Allah say, may the blessing of Allah be in it, and may He give us more of it, for I know that there is no other food or drink that can take its place. So there's big premium on this drink of milk. So how often are we drinking milk compared to soda or juice? Because the Prophet ﷺ is really placing a great importance on milk. So we should try to incorporate milk into our daily diet more often. There are actually many hadith where the Prophet ﷺ praises milk, and it is said that he loved milk. Of course, it has calcium, has protein, vitamin A, which is good for vision, vitamin B12, which is essential for the growth and health of the nervous system, and has vitamin D. I was just talking to one brother earlier about vitamin D deficiency. Vitamin D deficiency is the most common vitamin deficiency in the United States and in many countries. Why is that? Because you know that you get vitamin D from getting exposure to sunlight, right? Nowadays, who's out in the sun all day? A lot of people don't even spend any time in the sun, okay? So if you're not spending any time in the sun, where can you get vitamin D? Like from food sources. Milk, but milk is not a natural source of vitamin D. They artificially put it in there. And cereal, same thing. Cereal is fortified with vitamin D, okay? So if you're not a cereal eater, you're not a milk drinker, and you're not out in the sunlight, go to the doctor and see what your vitamin D level is like, because chances are it's very low. Okay? Why is that important? You can be very low on energy. And it will turn you very sluggish. Vitamin D is very important in fighting off infections. So you can be prone to getting frequent cold and flu infections. If you're someone who's getting sick all the time, go get your vitamin D level checked out. And then if you're low on vitamin D, drink milk. Drink milk, be out in the sunlight. You can also take a vitamin D supplement, but it's also better to try to get it from the sunlight, which is the natural source. But if you're finding out you're not getting enough, get a vitamin D supplement. It's really important. You'll start to feel the difference. Most people are deficient on vitamin D. They are. I'm looking into the room. Most of you will probably be vitamin D deficient. That's how common it is. It's really that common. So pay special attention to it. Riboflavin, that's really important for the body's energy needs. So milk has that. And the reason I put here helps in weight loss is because many people can drink a glass of milk just as a snack. For most people, if they're hungry and they drink a glass of milk and they wait, they will find that their appetite goes away. But you have to wait, because it takes a while for the protein to get in the stomach and for the stomach to relay to the brain that, hey, I got enough for now. But most people don't usually wait. They just keep eating until their stomach is full. Okay, olive oil. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, this is ayah 35, Surah An-Nur. Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth. The parable of his light, as it were, is that of a niche containing a lamp. The lamp is enclosed in glass. The glass shining like a radiant star, lit from a blessed tree, an olive tree that is neither of the east nor the west, the oil whereof is so bright that it would well nigh give light of itself, even though fire had not touched it, light upon light. Allah guides unto his light that wills to be guided, and Allah propounds parables unto men, since Allah alone has full knowledge of all things. The Prophet ﷺ advised us, use olive oil as a food and ointment, for it comes from a blessed tree. Now, the thing about olive oil is that it has omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids, which are fatty acids which are very healthy for our body, especially for like the brain. So olive oil has that, so that's one good thing. It has also, of course, other essential vitamins that your body needs. But one important thing here is, again, we see olive oil has polyphenols. Polyphenol is an antioxidant, and that means olive oil helps to prevent cancer. So another food that the Prophet ﷺ ate, or food item I should say, and helped to prevent cancer. Let's see, what else? Oh, olive oil helps to lower LDL and raise HDL. Low LDL is the bad cholesterol, they say, and HDL is the good cholesterol, although our understanding of this is changing somewhat. But still, by and large, we refer to LDL as the bad cholesterol. It should not be too high, and our HDL should be, if your HDL is higher, that's good. So olive oil helps to lower the bad cholesterol and to raise your good cholesterol. Okay? Olive oil acts as a mild laxative, so it helps with your digestive system. We already talked the effect on the brain and nervous system. When I mention olive oil, I say try to get the extra virgin olive oil, because extra virgin olive oil is the olive oil which is less processed. And because it's less processed, it has a higher level of antioxidants, which means it's even more effective at fighting off cancer. Okay, vinegar. The Prophet ﷺ said, vinegar is a comfort for man. He ﷺ also said, Allah has put blessing in vinegar, for truly it was the seasoning used by the prophets before me. So vinegar actually has been shown to lower your blood glucose levels. So, eating or ingesting vinegar on a regular basis helps to prevent diabetes. And it may also help fight off serious chronic conditions such as osteoporosis and heart disease and stroke. So really, olive oil vinegar is also very healthy for us as well. Butter. Now, it is reported in a sound narration that the Prophet ﷺ used to like butter and dates. We talked about that earlier, butter and dates. Okay. Now, when we're talking about butter and dates, we're not talking about the butter that you find in the grocery store. It's probably a different type of butter that they used back then. And also, don't get the idea that when he used dates, that he completely dipped the date completely in butter. So when I'm talking about butter, I don't want you to get like overly excited and go home and just put butter on everything and thinking you're following the sunnah. And it's not. I'm not talking about that. You're using a little bit, okay. First of all, and you're not eating it all the time. I'm not saying that the Prophet ﷺ ate butter all the time, but he used to enjoy it with dates. So keep that in mind, okay. Keep that in mind. Also, the butter they used in those days was different. It probably was maybe healthier than the butter you might find now. But in any case, I always tell people that there are some benefits to butter. As you can see here, it has antioxidants. It has antioxidants, which means it can help fight off cancer. It's a great source of vitamin E and K. Vitamin E is another type of antioxidant as well. Okay, and it has lauric acid, which helps in treating certain types of fungal infections, including candida, which is a specific type of fungal infection. So it has some good properties to it. It's not completely unhealthy for you, but you don't want to be eating it all the time. And one thing I mentioned with butter too is that margarine is not necessarily healthier than butter. Margarine is something which is more artificially produced. Butter is more natural. So you can have butter, but just use it in balance and don't overdo it with the butter and have it all the time with every single meal and having too much of it. Okay. Walnuts. So walnuts have been shown to promote cardiovascular health, means prevent heart disease and prevent stroke, lower cholesterol. Walnuts are also shown to delay the onset of Alzheimer's disease. That has a good source of omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids, the healthy fatty acids. So what are you noticing so far, as I mentioned, in the pattern of the foods that the Prophet ﷺ ate? Many of the foods, as you're seeing, help prevent heart attack, help prevent stroke, help prevent cancer, help prevent diabetes. So when I make these claims, I'm not just saying it. This is all like proven science. Now we know that these foods that the Prophet ﷺ ate, they help prevent these diseases. Okay, some other benefits of walnut seeds. They're anti-inflammatory, so it helps keep inflammation down in the body. It helps to prevent blood clots. So preventing blood clots is good, so that you're not getting a heart attack, or you're not getting a stroke, or some other type of blood clot in your blood vessels. And if you're wondering why I'm not going through every single item, I'm just trying to pick out some of the most important ones, because otherwise we'll be here all night. But now mushrooms. So the Prophet ﷺ said mushrooms are a kind of blessing, and their juice is a medicine for the eyes. SubhanAllah, now we know that there are certain mushrooms which are beneficial for preventing certain eye diseases. So this is very true. That doesn't mean every mushroom, but there are certain mushrooms that do prevent certain types of diseases of the eye. So that is another true statement. It should not be surprising, but it's interesting. So mushrooms help to boost the immune system, lower blood pressure, lower cholesterol. So that will help prevent heart disease, right? Help prevent stroke. Mushrooms help prevent cancer. Okay, promote healthy skin. So mushrooms are also something that can be very beneficial for your health. Certain types of mushrooms are even useful for diabetic patients, like maitake and silver ear mushrooms. So if you're not accustomed to eating mushrooms, try to incorporate that into your diet as well. Grapes. So in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Surah An-Nahl, Ayah 11, by virtue thereof He causes crops to grow for you, olive trees, date palms, and grapes, all other kinds of fruit. In this, behold, there is a message indeed for people who think. So, there's a wisdom, there's a hikmah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning certain types of food only, and one of these is grapes. So it's well known that the Prophet ﷺ used to enjoy eating grapes. And grapes have essential vitamins. They're a good source of polyphenols. So again, that's antioxidant, meaning grapes help to prevent cancer. Okay, an anti-inflammatory effect, help to reduce inflammation in your body. Grapes help to prevent heart attack and stroke. You see all these foods? They help to prevent all of these different types of diseases: heart attack, stroke, cancer. Grapes are known to have resveratrol. Okay, resveratrol is something in the skin of grapes which helps to prevent high blood pressure, and I'm going to show you that in a moment. There's something called the French paradox, meaning that the French eat more animal fat, but they have less incidence of heart disease. And usually they attribute this to the fact that the French people, they drink a lot of wine. Okay? And there are certain benefits of alcohol. It helps to dilate your blood vessels and reduce blood clots. Okay? Of course, we know that alcohol, of course, is haram. The reason I'm mentioning this is now it's coming out more that alcohol, even on a moderate level, even if you drink it a little bit every day, is not healthy for you. But for a long time, they used to tout this in the media and popular culture, that if you drink a glass of wine every day, it's good for your heart, it's good for your health. Now we know, and this isn't actually new. They found this out. I've been saying this now for years, but now I'm hearing more and more and more to debunk this. So now they know, they have discovered that even a moderate amount of alcohol, even a little bit of alcohol every day, is dangerous for your body. Okay. The next time somebody tries to push this on you and says that, oh no, drinking even a little bit every day is good for no, that's not according to now the latest science. So that should, of course, it doesn't affect us because we know alcohol is haram anyway, so we don't drink it. But it's just interesting to know that it's not really beneficial for your body. You certainly don't need it, and you're not missing anything by not drinking it. And even this concept where people who drink wine, like the French, may have less incidence of cardiovascular disease, but there is a benefit to the grapes itself, which the wine comes from. So there's something called resveratrol in the skin of grapes, and it acts on your blood pressure physiology in the following manner. So there's something in the body called angiotensinogen, which gets converted into angiotensin 1 by an enzyme called renin from the kidney. Okay? So angiotensinogen gets converted into angiotensin 1, and angiotensin 1 goes to the lungs and gets converted by angiotensin converting enzyme, ACE, and it gets converted into angiotensin 2. What effect does angiotensin 2 have on the body? It vasoconstricts, meaning it squeezes your blood vessels. Now, as we talked about last week, if I squeeze a pipe, what will happen to the pressure inside the pipe? It goes up. Okay? Now, the body does this all the time. It's dilating blood vessels, it's squeezing blood vessels, dilating them, squeezing them. Okay, it's regulating your blood pressure in this way to make sure that your blood pressure is normal. Okay, but sometimes there might be more blood volume, so it has to dilate the blood vessel. Sometimes there's less blood volume, so it has to squeeze the blood vessel to make sure that your blood pressure is staying at a normal level. Okay, so one of the ways it does this is angiotensin. Okay, now angiotensin 2. So when angiotensin 2 is in the body, it vasoconstricts and also increases the blood volume. So if we increase the amount of fluid in a pipe and we decrease the size of the pipe, what happens to the pressure in the pipe? It will increase. So the job of angiotensin 2 is to increase your blood pressure. Okay, that's its effect. How does this relate to grapes? So grapes have resveratrol. The resveratrol eliminates this step. Okay, it eliminates this step, meaning the blood pressure is lowered. Okay, so instead of just telling you that grapes lower blood pressure, I like to sometimes illustrate these things a little bit so you can appreciate how grapes help to lower your blood pressure. This is a fruit that the Prophet ﷺ ate frequently. Okay, so it's a good idea to incorporate grapes, and you can have it as a dessert. It's a good dessert to have. It refreshes you and helps to lower your blood pressure a little bit. So it's really beneficial in that aspect. Remember, it also helps to fight off cancer and has other good effects as well. So yeah, when I'm talking about vasodilation, I'm talking about this. A blood vessel is dilated, and what angiotensin 2 will do is it will constrict. It will constrict the blood vessels. So grapes will help to dilate the blood vessels. That's what grapes help to do. Okay, how about figs? So the Prophet ﷺ said, if you are going to say any fruit has come from the garden, then truly you should say, or you should mention the fig, for it is indeed the fruit of the garden. So figs have a high content of fiber. Fiber is really good for your colon. Okay, so if you're taking in a good amount of fiber, then the waste is getting excreted or out of the colon into the toilet very well, smoothly. If you're not getting enough fiber, then you're going to have problems. Okay, so it's good that, where can you get fiber? Fruits and vegetables. Okay, so figs have a lot. They have more fiber content than other types of fruit. So that's why it's very good. It's very good for that purpose. And it has a lot of essential vitamins and minerals. Figs also help to control blood pressure. And anything which helps to control blood pressure will ease the pressure on your heart. It doesn't have to work as hard, so it will also consequently help prevent heart disease. And figs help to cleanse the urinary system. It's a good, quick source of energy. Okay, barley. It is said that the Prophet ﷺ used barley soup to help alleviate fevers. It's something he also used to eat pretty frequently, barley. You see it often, it's mentioned often. It's a great source of fiber, so again, it's good for your digestive system. It helps to reduce the bad cholesterol. And barley helps to decrease the amount of blood sugar and helps to increase the insulin response. So not only helps to control the blood sugar, but it helps insulin to work better. So barley is good for preventing diabetes. Another food here that the Prophet ﷺ ate helps to prevent diabetes. Barley helps to promote cardiovascular health. So it helps to prevent heart attack and stroke. Okay, it helps to control weight and gallstones and helps to prevent cancer. See, again, so many of these foods help prevent heart attack, stroke, cancer, high blood pressure. Okay, melons. Melons are a great source of vitamin C and folate. Melons also help prevent heart attack, stroke, high blood pressure, diabetes, and cancer. Okay, like melons, like you're talking about honeydew melons, things like cantaloupe, that's watermelons. Okay, but a watermelon is also a great source of vitamin C, vitamin A, vitamin B6, and watermelon seeds are a great source of things like protein and fiber and other essential nutrients as well. Okay, pomegranate. Now, in the Quran, we're talking about Surah Nam, Ayah 141. For it is he who has brought into being gardens, both the cultivated ones and those growing wild, and the date palm and fields bearing multiform produce, and the olive tree and the pomegranate, resembling one another yet so different. Eat of their fruit when it comes to fruition, and give unto the poor their due on harvest day, and do not waste Allah's bounties. Verily, He does not love the wasteful. So here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is enjoining on us to eat two particular foods, from the olive tree and pomegranate. So it's interesting to see that here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is encouraging us, but how many of us actually follow this encouragement? So, and also reminding us, don't go to excess, don't waste. So the Prophet ﷺ said, there is not a pomegranate which does not have a pip from one of the pomegranates of the garden in it. Although I think this hadith is da'if. So, but anyways, pomegranates help to lower LDL, which is the bad cholesterol. It helps to prevent heart attack and stroke. Also helps to prevent cancer, has high levels of polyphenols, which is antioxidant. Helps to prevent osteoarthritis. It also may help prevent Alzheimer's disease. So really a lot of good benefits for pomegranates as well. Okay, pumpkin. And here I always say pumpkin and squash because sometimes the translation in Arabic they use the word pumpkin, sometimes they use squash. Okay, but the fact of the matter is a pumpkin is a type of squash. So you can kind of think of it both ways. But Anas bin Malik radiallahu anhu reported that a person invited Allah's Messenger to a meal. I also went along with him. He brought soup containing pumpkin or squash. And Allah's Messenger ate the pumpkin with relish. Anas said, when I saw that, I began to place it before him. He did not eat it myself. Anas said it was since then that pumpkin was always my favorite food. Okay? The Thabit said, I heard Anas saying that any meal that was prepared for me after that, I tried that it should contain pumpkin. This hadith or story I like because it's relaying to us the love the Sahaba radiallahu anhum had for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They don't need to hear this presentation or lecture on the various benefits of the food items. They just simply saw the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam doing something and they just wanted to copy him, even if it's something very simple like eating a food item like pumpkin or squash. This like intense love for him that they want to copy him. When you love someone, you love the things that they do, and so this is a really good example of that. So it's good for us to have this type. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us this type of love for the Prophet sallallahu so that we can practice these things. So great source of alpha and beta carotene and vitamin A and vitamin C, and it's good for eye health. Okay, the orange in the pumpkin is good for eye health, and it helps prevent heart attack and stroke. And the orange color also has, which is due to carotenoids, also helps to prevent cancer. So another food item that the Prophet also ate helps to prevent cancer. Okay, cucumber. What I want to mention about cucumber is it has a lot of water in it, so it helps to cleanse the body, and it helps to control blood pressure. Those are the couple of two things that I wanted to mention. It helps to cool the body. How about lemons and citrus fruits? So the Prophet ﷺ would eat citrus fruits. The Prophet ﷺ said the example of a believer who recites the Quran is that of a citrus fruit, which is good in taste and good in smell. Okay, and some really good benefits of citrus fruits I want to highlight here is that it helps to prevent heart attack, stroke, high blood pressure, and cancer. Okay, and many other things, but those are some of the big diseases, as we see again and again and again. Okay, so we're winding down now some of the food items. We're going to now salt. The Prophet ﷺ said, salt is the master of your food. God sent down 4 blessings from the sky: fire, water, iron, and salt. Now you need a certain amount of salt in your body to carry out certain physiological reactions in your body. So salt is not bad, but when you take too much of the salt, then it becomes bad because it really leads to high blood pressure. And if you remember this picture from last week, for those of you who were last week, remember we said that osmosis is the travel of water from a place of less concentration to a place of greater concentration. Last week we called these brown circles sugar, but now let's say that these brown circles are, let's say it's salt in your blood. So where is water going to go? It's going to go from a place of less circles to a place of more circles, more concentration. So that's how salt also helps to increase the blood pressure, because the water is going to get added here and the blood volume is going to go up. And when your blood volume goes up, what happens to the pressure inside of that? It goes up as well. So that's why salt is not good for you. Okay? How about black seed? Okay, black seed. The Prophet ﷺ said, use this black seed regularly because it has a cure for every disease except death. Now we know that due to various studies that there are many different types of afflictions which can be alleviated or prevented with the use of Najila sativa, which is black seed. Even in the Muslim world, in folk medicine, it's used to treat many different types of diseases, okay, traditionally. But we know now that it has anti-tumor properties, which means it helps to prevent cancer, okay? It helps to dilate the breathing tubes, the bronchioles in our chest, okay? So by dilating that helps to aid in your breathing, okay? Has anti-inflammatory properties. It's also been shown to help boost the immune system to fight off infection. All right, and there's more research that can always be done, but you can even Google it yourself. You can see that many of these studies are from like medical schools and universities in Muslim countries. But there's a lot of interesting information that I can't cover everything right now. But black seed is really important. If you're not accustomed to eating it every day, it's something good to take, to make use of as part of your daily diet. Okay, meat. I want to spend a little bit of time talking about meat. It is reported that the Prophet ﷺ was fond of the meat from the arm of a sheep. Okay, and there's a saying, of course, beware of meat, for it has addiction. It has an addiction like the addiction of wine. So it has, in some parts of Yemen, they still call meat khamr al-mu'minin, the wine of the believers, because it has this type of addictive quality. People can get hooked onto eating a lot of meat. But the Prophet ﷺ did not eat meat very often. He ate meat. He's not a total vegetarian. He did eat meat, but it's not like he ate it every day, or certainly not with every meal. Okay? When are the times that the Prophet ﷺ generally ate meat? Like when he was invited as a guest to someone's house, a wedding, Eid, day of Eid. These are the occasions he used to eat meat. It was not something that he regularly consumed. Okay, you say he was almost like a semi-vegetarian, because most of the time he was not eating meat. Now, beef is mentioned in the Quran, but the Prophet ﷺ rarely ate beef, if at all, maybe never. And the Prophet ﷺ said the meat of a cow is a disease; its milk is a cure. So lamb, sheep, and goat meat we know is much healthier than beef. Okay, these are all different types of red meat. But in general, white meat is healthier than red meat. And the Prophet ﷺ, he used to like to eat chicken and the meat of small hunted birds. So this is the type of white meat he used to like. Okay. Now we know, this is very well established, that too much meat causes certain types of cancer. We know that it's related to colon cancer. We know that a diet high in red meat and low in fruits and vegetables is one big risk factor for developing cancer of the colon. But did you know that a diet high in red meat can also lead to lung cancer? Because usually we associate that with smoking, but some people can also get lung cancer from eating too much meat. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about, we have a little bit of time to talk about the meat industry, and this gets into our discussion about tayyib and halal. So just because something is halal doesn't mean it's tayyib. We have to look at the way the animals are raised. I'm sure you have seen sometimes these videos on YouTube where the cattle are prodded with these hot branding irons. They burn their, they brand images into their, skin. That's painful for the cow. They also are in cramped spaces. Some of the cattle, they're walking in their own feces. What do they feed cattle usually? Cows. What do cows naturally eat? I should say. What do they naturally eat? Grass, right? Grass. But the cattle which are raised on these farms for beef consumption, which are going to be slaughtered for beef, do they feed them grass? No. What do they feed them? Grain. They feed them this artificial grain. Is that the natural food for a cow? No. Why is it that they feed them this artificial grain then? They gain a lot of weight quickly. Why is that important? More money, exactly. Everything is about more money. Exactly, good. So when did this start? Like around World War II, when they were making this excess amount or producing this excess amount of grain for the war effort, they found that they could use this excess grain. Why don't we give it to the farm animals? And they found, lo and behold, that the cattle, the cows, they would get fat really quickly. How long does it take for a cow that's raised on grass to get to slaughter time? How much? It takes 4 years. Okay, it takes 4. How long on the grain-fed cows? 9 months. Okay, so that's why you're cutting down on that time drastically. Okay, so that's why they feed them this artificial grain. Now, if you're getting fat really quickly, like let's say people, don't you think you're going to have some problems like diabetes and heart disease and all of that? Don't you think the same thing happens to the cow? Yeah, they get that. Okay, so if you are eating if you butcher an animal according to halal rituals, it's the dhabiha, you're slaughtering it the right way, but it's raised in such an awful manner. Is it tayyib? No, it's not tayyib, you know. And we also have to, and the same thing with the chickens. You've seen maybe the videos of the chickens in the dark cages, and they're cooped up, and they're breaking each other's beaks off, and just horrible conditions that these birds, the chickens, are being raised in as well. You're eating this type of meat is not considered tayyib and pure. So raising the animals in the right way is also very important. That we have to be humane and gentle, you know. For instance, if we know we're not supposed to show the blade to an animal, right? We're not. What happens when you show the blade to the animal? What if I put a blade to your neck, will you become nervous? Yeah, you will become nervous. Your body will start producing or releasing certain hormones in excess, like epinephrine, right? And these hormones prepare the body for a fight or flight response, right? Either you're going to fight or you're going to go run away. So same thing with the cow. Same thing with it. You show them a blade or you show them that they're going to die, then they're going to get nervous. And these hormones, what do they affect? They affect the muscles of the body. And of course, the meat that you eat, that's muscles. So you don't want to be eating meat from animals which are in anxious state and scared and nervous. You know, I'm not saying that there might be a biological connection, but Allahu alam, if there's some sort of spiritual or psychological effect. I'm just saying, I don't know. But the point is that we need to be concerned about how we raise animals. And we should support, I think, in my opinion, we should support those businesses which are producing meat and raising animals in not only producing halal meat, but they're raising animals in a tayyib, in a humane way. So that's my little discussion about meat, you know. And try to stay away from beef. As we mentioned, beef is the worst of the red meat. It leads to lung cancer, it leads to colon cancer, leads to high cholesterol, so it leads to heart disease and stroke. And it's not something that the Prophet ﷺ really ate. So even though it can be very tasty for many people, eating burgers, kebabs, whatever, try to limit that. Try to limit that. If you're eating it if you're used to eating it, try cutting down to once a week to start off with, you know. But the less you eat of it, the better off you will be, you know. So try to stick more with white meat versus especially beef, okay. Now here's just again, we're looking at the colon. Let's say this is a diagram of the colon. And remember, food goes from the mouth, esophagus, stomach, then goes to the small intestine. Food gets further digested and absorbed, the nutrients. Then from the small intestine, it goes into the large intestine. The colon is part of the large intestine. Now the food is no longer food, it's waste. Okay, so by the time food gets into the colon, it's no longer food because all of the good stuff is gone from the food. It's absorbed into your body in the small intestine. Now it's waste. So the colon handles waste to be removed and excreted from the body. Now you can see here the colon is here nice and smooth. What happens in people who eat too much red meat and don't eat enough fruits and vegetables, so they're not getting enough fiber? This causes intraluminal pressure, meaning that the pressure inside the colon is increased. So I've represented this by force arrows. Force arrows. Excuse me. So you can see that there is pressure against the wall of the colon. Again, this happens overnight? No. This happens over like decades. Okay, but if you're not getting enough fiber and you're eating too much red meat, you get this pressure against the lining of the colon, and that will cause a pouch. Will cause a pouch to develop. Okay. And these pouches, in medicine we give everything fancy names, so we call these pouches diverticuli. Diverticuli, okay? And over time, if you're not eating enough fruits and vegetables, you're eating too much red meat, your colon can develop these diverticuli, which results in a condition called diverticulosis, which means many pouches on your colon, okay? The signs and symptoms of this are very vague, and most people will not know that they have diverticulosis, okay? And so they can have a normal life. But what can happen is that as the waste is going through here, do you think it's possible to get caught in these pouches? Yeah, that can happen. As the feces is going through the colon, it can get caught in the pouch. And that the feces has bacteria, and that can lead to inflammation. And now the diverticulosis has turned into diverticulitis. Itis means inflammation. So now you have diverticulitis. Diverticulitis will cause you more signs and symptoms. You'll feel like more pain and discomfort in your abdomen. Okay, so that's a very real condition that people suffer with. Another thing that can develop, so the pouches, the diverticuli, are an outgrowth of the colon. But you can have an ingrowth of things on the colon too. These are called polyps. Okay. Again, polyps also result when people don't get enough fiber, not eating enough fruits and vegetables, and eating too much red meat. Okay. And a polyp, of course, polyps can then turn into colon cancer. Okay. The polyps can turn into colon cancer. Now, this is a colostomy bag. The reason I showed this is that sometimes what happens with colon cancer patients is that in order to prevent the colon cancer from spreading to the rest of the body, they remove the colon. Okay? In some cases, they have to remove the colon. So now the patient is left with the problem of getting rid of their feces because the colon is gone. So what do is they attach a bag or tube to the end of the small intestine, because now the large intestine is gone. So they attach it to the small intestine, the tube, and the tube comes out into a bag. Now, and so you can see, it comes out of the body. And this is a really miserable existence for people because they have to live with this pouch, and the feces comes out in the pouch, and they have to drain the pouch, and sometimes that can result in a skin infection because the waste is there and everything. Miserable, right? Miserable. And many times this condition, colon cancer, can be prevented just by following the sunnah of eating the foods that the Prophet ﷺ ate. You notice that they're filled with fruits and vegetables, so you get enough fiber, and not eating too much red meat. Okay, so the reason I showed this and illustrate this example is you don't have to live like this. You can prevent this simply by eating more fruits and vegetables and eating less red meat. So the more fruits and vegetables you get, the more fiber you get, and that helps to keep the colon nice and smooth because the feces is excreted smoothly. Okay, water. The Prophet ﷺ said that the best drink in this world and the next is Coca-Cola. No. Okay, you guys are supposed to catch me. No, he said that the best drink in this world and the next is water. Water. So not juice, not even tea or coffee. The best drink is water. Okay, so we should definitely get in the habit of drinking more water. The Prophet ﷺ said water was created pure, and nothing makes it impure except that which changes its color, taste, and smell. Okay, so all these drinks which change the water, its color, its taste and smell, the Prophet ﷺ is saying it's impure, which of course we know it is impure, obviously. So about 55-75% of the human body is water. It accounts for about 60% of your body weight. So most of our body is water. So we need to make sure we keep getting water into our bodies, About 20% of our fluid intakes comes just from foods. And we're always losing fluid. We're always losing fluid, like when we're sweating, but even breathing. Obviously, going to the bathroom and urinating, but just by breathing, you're also losing moisture. So you always need to be, constantly intaking water. Okay, let's see what else here. Some, of course, benefits of drinking enough water. It helps to balance the body fluids, control calories, because if you're filling your stomach up with more water, you're less space in there for food, so you're not as hungry. So help energize muscles, keep your skin looking good and healthy and cool, keeping your body temperature cool, keeping, of course, your kidneys and urinary system functioning correctly, sometimes people develop kidney stones because they're not drinking enough water. And kidney stones can be especially painful for men. So you want to make sure that you're drinking enough water. Okay, and lubricate the joints, of course. And sometimes people, if they're dehydrated, they can also feel fatigued. If you're someone who has low on energy, see how much water you're drinking. Sometimes just drinking more water can reduce the amount of fatigue you're experiencing. How much water should you be drinking per day? Because the all adage of drinking, 8 glasses of water per day. So I haven't seen that as a scientific study. There's no scientific study to say you should be drinking 8 glasses of water per day. So that's kind of a myth. However, the Institute of Medicine recommends 3 liters of fluid, not water, 3 liters of fluid a day for men and 2.2 liters of fluid for women. Okay, and remember that fluid can also come from food. But that at least is more of a scientific guideline rather than 8 glasses a day, which is not scientific. Although I'm not saying that's bad, but a lot of times you hear that, and I don't know where that came from, but there's really no scientific studies to say that that is what you should be doing. Okay. And limit juice, tea, and coffee. A lot of people say, oh, drink juice. A lot of these juices have a lot of sugar, and that's going to lead to diabetes if you're drinking juice all the time. So you should be really drinking water all the time, but sparingly drinking juice. And even tea and coffee, it's not necessary to drink it all the time or 2-3 times a day. People are drinking coffee 2-3 times a day. That's not what the Prophet ﷺ used to do. So I'm not saying don't drink coffee, but what I'm saying is you shouldn't be doing it all the time. Your body's getting used to the caffeine content and all. It's not good for you. So, okay, definitely have to mention soda. I have about 5 minutes left, and then I'll be done. Soda is one of the worst things that you can drink. I'm sure you're probably aware. It's so artificial, and not only does it have a great amount of sugar. So, now people, we know that people who drink soda all the time, they're going to get more prone to developing diabetes. But even the diet sodas are so artificially filled with so many of these artificial chemicals. And if you look at the ingredient list of sodas, you can't even pronounce it, right? So it's something you should avoid. It can lead to diabetes, and it dehydrates your body because of the caffeine content. It can lead to obesity, tooth decay, osteoporosis. Okay, some studies talking about the relationship between soda and cancer and toxicity, but that is not as well established as some of these other things. Okay, it can also lead to gastroesophageal reflux. Remember last week we talked about the danger of heartburn, how that can lead to cancer over time because of the gaseous content, the gas content in the soda. That can lead to pressure inside the stomach and regurgitate stomach acid up. So it can lead to heartburn and gastroesophageal reflux and lead to esophageal cancer. So just stay away from soda. If you're drinking a little bit of it now, try to eliminate it. If you're drinking a lot of it right now, for gosh sakes, control yourself, because it's really such a bad drink to drink. How about the manner in which the Prophet ﷺ ate when he's eating? So Anas bin Malik said that when the Prophet ﷺ has forbidden a person from drinking water while standing, and Qatada asked Anas, what are the orders about eating? He replied that the act of eating while standing would be worse. The Prophet ﷺ often used to sit properly and remain in that position. He would squat down on his knees and sit on his heels for the meal. Or other times he would raise his right leg. So something like this. So one of the two positions, something like eating like this, or eating like this, squatting down like this. You see here like that on my heels. This is the position eating on the ground. And why is this beneficial? Because eating while in a seated position will make you feel less hungry. And ultrasound images have shown that while sitting, food settles in the lower part of the stomach, which increases a sense of fullness. While lying down, the food settles in the top part of the stomach. Okay, and eating while standing or eating while you're walking or running impairs natural digestion. Okay, so the Prophet ﷺ said, I do not eat while reclining. I am but a slave. I eat as a slave eats, and I sit as a slave eats. So you don't want to be eating while you're lying down, but eating while you're sitting. And also now we know that for people who sit at the table, like in modern day, people are sitting at the dining table, they tend to eat more versus people who are sitting on the ground when we're eating because of the position of the stomach. So it is healthier, even from that perspective, you're eating less if you're sitting on the ground. Okay, so here I say turn off the TV and eat together. The Prophet ﷺ said eat together and not separately, for the blessing is associated with the company. And Wahshi ibn Harb, on his father's authority, said his grandfather told of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, asking, Messenger of Allah, we eat, but we are not satisfied. He ﷺ suspected that they ate separately, and when they replied that this was so, he said, if you gather together at your food and mention Allah's name, you will be blessed in it. So he encouraged people to eat together. Studies have shown that people eat less when in the company of others. Emotional eating is when people eat in isolation. So, and also watching TV distracts from digestion of your body. When does digestion take place? When does it first start? When it first starts? When you what? Yes. Okay. So it actually begins even before you put food in your mouth. So when your eyes see food, your body starts to prepare your body for digestion. Okay? And if you are distracted from looking at the food and you're looking at other things, that can kind of interfere and impair the natural digestive process. So that's why I said don't be in a natural setting. Look at your food, look at people. Don't be concerned with watching a TV or something like that, because it's not a natural way of eating. And the Prophet said you're more blessed when you're in the company of people when you're eating together. So also, you don't want to drink too much water with your meal, because that will dilute the stomach acid and it will not digest the food as proper. So the Prophet ﷺ, he did not fill his stomach with water or fluid when he was eating, because that will impair digestion. So eat slowly and chew your food properly. Use smaller plates. The reason I say that is because if you use big plates, then you tend to put a lot of food on your big plates. This is really quick chart of body mass index to see where you fit on here. You can do this very easily online, body mass index calculator. You should be 18.5 to 24.9. That's the normal range. You should aim for that. So if you're more than 24.9, you need to lose weight. Okay? And obviously, if you're in the obese category, morbidly obese, that means you're in danger of heart disease and stroke and diabetes. Here I just basically mention that the average BMI of a diabetic of a white person starts at a BMI of 25 or 26. But for a South Asian person, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, their risk of diabetes starts at a BMI of just 22. And if you notice, a BMI of 22 is in the normal range. So people who are South Asian, from Pakistan, India, and so forth, they need to be more careful about their risk for diabetes, because it's much more prevalent in those races. Usually I try to say, like for breakfast, people should incorporate honey with water and milk. For lunch, this generally should be your heaviest meals, but you don't want to overdo it. And dinner should be light. Dinner should be light, because you're going to be going to sleep in a few hours, so you don't want to be filling up your stomach with the food. How about exercise? I have to mention a little bit about exercise. Experts recommend 2.5 hours a week minimum. And now we know if you're not moving around, you're cutting your life short. You're really damaging your body. And not only because it's contributing to weight gain, which can lead to cancer, but also they have said that even if you're exercising a lot, but even just sitting down in one place for an hour or more can damage your body permanently. So that's why you see people now standing in their workplaces. They have the standing desks. But you really want to make sure you're moving around your body, because it also helps to prevent diabetes, as we showed last week. So the last thing here, we need to think very seriously about our health and what we put into our bodies. We are what we eat. We should use the Prophet ﷺ as a role model for everything, including what we eat. And if you look at the life of the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, they were generally very healthy. Didn't have cancer, didn't have heart disease, didn't have stroke. Okay, so we should try to emulate them, and inshallah we will be at least have much less incidence of these diseases in our communities. Basically, does anyone have any questions about anything I discussed? You have a question?
Is hypoglycemia, is it a type of diabetes?
Hypoglycemic? Hypoglycemic just means foods which are less in sugar.
But like when somebody have lower sugar, like doesn't have
You're talking about a condition, hypoglycemia.
Yes.
What about hypoglycemia?
Is it type of diabetes? Like
No.
No.
It's not a type of diabetes. That's a state where it's actually kind of the opposite. Your blood sugar level is too low. So hyperglycemia is what leads to diabetes. Hypoglycemia is the opposite of diabetes. Now, if somebody is diabetic, they can have a hypoglycemic episode. Okay, they can have a hypoglycemic episode. But typically what happens is that their blood sugar is too high. It's hyperglycemia. Okay. No, you don't have to take off your shirt, but your face should be exposed, hands, and it should be at least 15 minutes per day. And if you're not getting that, then you should try to look into vitamin D tablets. Before,
If you tell something about hypoglycemic shock, that would be best because people have diabetic, they try to control and go down and go shock and die.
yeah, well, what happens is with blood sugar, just like anything else in the body, usually when things are too low, that's when things are actually more dangerous when things are too high. Usually when things are too high, it results in damage, but it takes a longer time, like hyperglycemia. When your blood sugar is too low, hypoglycemia, you start to feel the effects in a much greater way right away. And what can happen is if somebody is diabetic and maybe their medication their dosage is too high, and their blood sugar level can have the opposite effect where it goes too low. And maybe they're fasting and their blood sugar level goes too low and they're taking medication. So if their blood sugar level goes too low, then they need like a quick remedy food, like I don't know, Lifesaver, raisins, teaspoon of honey. You can use dates, but some of these, or the juice, a cup of juice. So these things are like a remedy food so that the person can rejuvenate or replenish their blood sugar levels really quickly. But that's what we call hypoglycemia. They will feel dizzy, they will feel faint, they may become unconscious.
It causes death.
Yeah, well, if it's too low, yeah, they'll die. But yeah. So
How about vitamin D? See, it's a liver fish, right?
yeah, I said fish liver. Nobody eats fish liver.
Which kind of fish?
I don't.
The whole livers?
I don't know, but I know that you can get it in fish liver, but most people don't eat fish liver. Yeah, so I usually tell people milk, cereal, and the sunlight. Those are your primary, sources of vitamin D. And if you're not doing that, then get the vitamin D supplements. Before people go, I have a survey, so I want people to fill out the survey if they could.